Leachie Gecko, the world's largest gecko that you can own in captivity, not to mention the dream for so many people. While this is a dream species for so many gecko lovers, you definitely know how to care for these guys before you end up owning the Leachie Gecko. Exactly why we are making this care guide today, going over the top 5 main care topics for Leachie, that being enclosure size, heating and lighting, the humidity requirements, the diet of the Leachie, and then lastly, what to fill your enclosure with so your Leachie Gecko is happy at its home. Stick around while we talk about everything you need to know when it comes to the care of the Leachie Gecko. Let's get into it. Kicking things off, let's start with number 1, the enclosure size for your Leachie. When it comes to the enclosure for your Leachie Gecko, there are going to be a couple of variables that go into this. The number 1 being the size of the animal, and then the number 2 being, well, the age of the animal. These tend to be a species that stress out when put into too big of a space. Much like any baby gecko, you don't want to be in the wide open in the wild because you are going to make easy prey and an easy snack for someone. And in captivity, well, these aren't the Einsteins of the animal world. They still think they're out there in the wild. Start off with a baby Leachie, like the one you guys just saw, going into then a subadult, juvenile subadult, and then lastly, what an adult, full, forever home would look like. Comes to baby Leachie geckos, the name of the game is making them feel safe and secure. And the way to do these is making sure your enclosure feels safe and secure. That's going to be a relatively small enclosure. Anything around a 5-gallon enclosure, an 8x8x12, or the stuff that we use over here, the 6-quart shoebox bin. You might be asking yourself, Dakota, a shoebox bin, why would we do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The shoebox bin retains great humidity and have a full, clear exterior wall so the animal can see out of, making it feel even more safe and secure in its home. And at the end of the day, it's temporary, very temporary, because we move up not only one size, but 2 sizes from there. At the end of the day, it's a nice, cheap, inefficient way to house your animal while it grows out to being that full adult Leachie size. However, if you are a tub hater and you can't stand tubs no matter what, then hey, I get it. That 5-gallon or 8x8x12 will work sufficiently for you until it goes into the next stages of life and needs an upgrade. Now that your gecko has grown a little bit and that enclosure is looking a little bit too small for him, it is time for the upgrade. Now many people will ask me, well, Dakota, when do I do it? What size? What age? How do I know? Well, it's dependent on so many different variables. Leachie geckos will grow at different ages and get different sizes much quicker or much slower, so we're gonna go on the vibe check, my guy. If that enclosure is looking way too small for that animal, then it's probably time to upgrade it. Next enclosure size, I recommend the 12x12x18. This is a great segue into the final enclosure build. Obviously, that shoebox, the 5-gallon's getting a little bit too small, but we don't want to put an animal that's like this big inside of an enclosure that is like, well, that big. You might run into some problems, so it's best to go with a midway enclosure first before going into that final enclosure size. Then once again, time to upgrade your Leachie Gecko. Now, there are back and forth on whether you should go to straight the final enclosure or move it into an 18x24. Personally, in my opinion, if the Leachie Gecko is outgrowing the 12x18, I mean, if that thing looks like it is way too small to be in there, I personally believe that it's ready to go in its forever home. But there are others say that you should have one more segue. Might being a little too careful, but hey. Finally getting into the last part of this topic, and that's going to be the adult enclosure. What size do you put the animal in when it is a big steaming potato ready to go and poop down the front of your glass? A couple different sizes I recommend. The 2 most common ones that I personally use, or ones that have been told to me, are either going to be the 36x18x36, the Zoom Ed one where it's like this big and then it's that big and it's that deep, or over here personally we like recommending the 2x2x2. Different manufacturers making it. We got the Dubias right here, the Zen Habitats over here. Moving on, let's get into the second topic at hand, one that is going to fly by here pretty fast, and that is going to be number 2, the heating and lighting requirements for your Leachie Gecko. Just like most of the New Caledonian geckos that we talk about, Leachies also come from, well, New Caledonian, and their temperatures are actually pretty nice. Like our Australian counterparts, the bearded dragon and other stuff that comes from Australia that needs high basking temperatures because goddamn is it hot in Australia, Leachie geckos actually come from a very temperate habitat, which means we can replicate that fairly easy within our own home. Temperatures you want to stick at when it comes to Leachie geckos are going to be in the 70s to upper 70s, being somewhere around the 72 to 78 degrees. Nighttime drop temps being anywhere from 60 to 65 up. If you find your enclosure getting too cold at night, maybe you like sleeping with the AC and double fans blasting towards you and our Leachie is also in there, then I do recommend some supplement heating for night just to make sure that they do not get too cold during that time. This can be done in a variety of different methods. The ceramic heat emitter does produce heat but does not produce light, the radiant heat panel, things of that sort. Getting into the second hand of this, let's talk about lighting. Now lighting is going to come with the big bad question. Do I need UVB for the Leachie Gecko? Oh no, UVB is not a requirement for the Leachie Gecko. They can be completely fine without UVB lighting, being able to synthesize the D3 with the added D3 vitamin that is in the crested gecko diet, or the diet that we feed the Leachie that we get into the number 4. However, it can be an added benefit. We do use UVB for some of our geckos. Our growouts do not get it. Our breeders over here do get it. We utilize both UVB and then the full spectrum lighting as well. If you are not using any type of UVB lighting, I would recommend something like a full spectrum lighting, which is going to be like these long bars right here that just gives some sort of day and night cycle. Makes the enclosures look prettier. I mean, look how nice it is. Now watch this. Ooh, that's dark, but then you put it back down. Ooh, very nice. Things are cheap. I think you get 8 of them for like 50 bucks or something. I can't remember. I've had them for a long, but they're like all over the place, as you can tell, and they do a great job of lighting stuff up. Bottom line is, if you want to go above and beyond for your animal, give it some UVB. It'll help it. I breed Leachies over here, which means this enclosure that the Leachie Gecko is in, it'll eventually once a year give me babies. That'll give me a couple of grand to $4 grand a year. I think I can take, you know, 100 of that and give it UVB. You don't have to. If that ain't flowing your cove, then don't do it. I don't really care, but make sure you do have some lighting so they understand the day and night cycle, and the enclosure that they're in looks pretty. Quick, boys and girls, before we move on with today's video, I just want to give a huge shout out to today's video sponsor, Blue River Diet. The Blue River Diet is a crested gecko food formula that was originally found in the UK, Europe area, not available for us in the States. However, that is no longer the case. This year they have been shipped over and we can finally get some Blue River Diet for ourselves, for our geckos. Using Blue River Diet since I got here. They approached me for a sponsorship, they gave me some food to try out, I had great success with it, I love the ingredients list, and we've been using it for, well, everything you see around this room. Doing a 3-7-20, that a lot of geckos are eating this. I love the ingredients in the formula. I love the research that's gone into it. These guys have gone out to New Caledonia themselves and researched geckos while formulating their diet. Everything that goes into it is a big thumbs up for old Dakota when it comes to Blue River. If you guys want to try it for yourself, check out the link I have in your description. I do get a small commission if you do. I very much appreciate it, but I promise you it is a great diet and your geckos will enjoy it. With all that being said, let's get back into the video. Moving on to the next topic, let's get into another fairly easy one, and that is going to be number 3, the humidity requirements for the Leachie Gecko. When it comes for humidity for the gecko, we are going to want to hit a range somewhere around the 60 to 80%, but this isn't going to be like the temperatures where the temperature is at, you know, 74.5 and that's good enough. We can just keep it at that the whole time. No, we are going to want a gradient for humidity. What I mean by this is you're going to want that humidity levels to rise and fall, not necessarily be in a straight line. You're not going to want your humidity set at 76% and keep it at 76% for the thorality of that animal's life. You want it like a little roller coaster, have it going up and down, up and down. To miss that enclosure, and that humidity is going to spike up towards that 80%, and then throughout the day it'll fall back down to around 60%. You'll miss it again and it goes back up and down, year after year, 10 years, 20 years, however long Leachie geckos live, and you're doing this day in and day out while it's alive. What a fantastic pet. Great ways to raise humidity levels are going to be having a deep substrate. We got a deep one of a deep one. We got a nice substrate layer of our bioactive mix that we sell over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. Misting during the day and then a heavy misting at night. This will be dependent on where you live. If you live in a more humidity, and we're in the north, there's no humidity here to be found. But if you do live in a more humidity, you know, Florida, things like that, then you might not have to mist as often. Misting systems will help you. Having live plants will help boost that humidity. Good luck. A pothos is the only thing I have found that can survive the Leachie's wrath. But those are just some great ways to get that humidity up if you are having issues. So we get into the next one that is always fun because it's, again, the Leachie, it's not that hard to take care of a Leachie, it just costs a lot of money, I guess. Like, just a big version, it's like Pug versus Mastiff. They're pretty much the same thing, one just costs you a lot more money. This is going to bring us to our next topic, number 4, the diet requirements of the Leachie Gecko. The diet is going to consist of 2 things for your Leachie, and that is going to be the powder diet and then the bugs. Geckos, just like any other New Caledonian geckos, thrive over here in captivity over the crested gecko diet. I know what you're thinking, Dakota, but it says crested gecko. Leachies can eat it too, don't discriminate. A bunch of commercial diets out there, but as we mentioned in the sponsor post, I absolutely love the new recent hit brand, Blue River Diets. My Leachies absolutely gulp it up. They've been having a great time with it. Of course, we do feed them bugs as well. The quarter size of the crickets or the extra small dubia roaches, things of that nature. As they get bigger and bigger, it's harder to give them bugs. Usually I'll try to grab them some of the really large males if I have an excess of them, the dubia roaches, and they chow down on that. Old ways will tell you that you don't need to feed those New Caledonian bugs and they can give it fed on the diet through the whole time. And it is true, they will live throughout the whole time. However, I will see you will get a completely different animal if you do get them settled and started on crickets or any type of bug, along with the gecko diet as well. I find my animals are more active with it, they look better, they grow a hell of a lot faster because they're getting that plush of all the vitamins and minerals and everything that comes into a bug, plus that added boost of the fats and proteins that go into there, everything within that. But yes, feed your Leachie Gecko bugs. I mean, by God, you spent $2 grand on the thing. Give it some bugs at least. This is where you stop? You're just tossing money at it, but you're like, no. Live bugs are where I draw the line. Get into it, the last one at hand. We've learned a lot today, boys and girls. We know what to put the geckos in. We know how hot to keep the geckos, how not cold to keep the geckos, what the humidity requirements are for these little dudes, and then finally that you feed them bugs. We are missing one statement that'll give us the high 5 of understanding our gecko care guide, and that is going to be number 5, what to fill the enclosure with to make sure your Leachie Gecko is happy in its new home. Leachie geckos are an interesting species of geckos. That's due to the fact that they love packed-in enclosure. They want to have multiple places to hide, multiple places where they can feel safe and secure. You can see that's been the big buzzword of today's video. Safe and secure is synonymous with the Leachie Gecko. Being said, you are going to want to pack that enclosure in. Make it feel nice, a nice, good, filled-in home for your Leachie Gecko. This isn't going to be a species where you're going to put 2 sticks and a fake plant and call it a day and your Leachie Gecko is going to be fine. No, you're going to have to spend a little bit. You're going to have to spend a pretty penny, some cork bark and some cork flats for it. For my Leachies, what I did with this 2x2 enclosure over there is I bought a wholesale package. It was either 5 or 10 pounds of the cork bark, and I used the majority of that bark inside that enclosure. I got some really nice big cork rounds for Leachie Gecko, some nice cork flats they can hide under, go around, and then I forged some branches outside as well that I was able to drill into the enclosure itself, having some horizontal places where they can relax, and then a lot of hiding places they can go into as well. Seemed to have done the trick for my Leachie Gecko. I have noticed as some time went on and it got more established in its home, it's a lot more to explore because it knows if there's any chance of a threat coming, I'm the threat to the Leachie. It only has a 0.2 second walk to go into a place where it can hide into and then feel safe from the threat. Of coming in and trying to give it chin rubs. Crowns and cork flats are going to be your bread and butter for this. They're going to want to have a lot of places to hide, and I can't really think of anything other than a cork round for it. They really do indeed. I can't stress that enough. Leachie geckos love the big cork rounds that they can hide into. It's like their bread and butter. It's their safe haven. They love the rounds. If you're getting a Leachie Gecko to grab some of those, make sure you pack that enclosure in so they have plenty of places to roam around, multiple different hiding places, and so on. That wasn't enough Leachie content for you guys. Here is this video right here of me doing something with Leachies, or this video right here where I also ended up doing something with Leachies. As always, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.